समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
This is the year of anniversaries. I told you the big ones, 100 years of RSS, 100 years of CPI, 50 years of the emergency, 50 years of the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, 50 years of the merger of Sikkim with India. However, even today, on the date, there is a very important anniversary. And this is the 11th year since Narendra Modi was sworn in as Prime Minister for the first time. That was Modi 1.0. That was in 2014. 11 years have gone past now. He's in his new government, and very soon it will be the first anniversary of his new government, his third government as well. And as we know, all of today, he's been traveling in Gujarat to his home state from one place to the other, talking about many things, but when he talks, a lot of politics comes out of it. All of that we'll keep watching. What we are going to do today is, because this is the 11th anniversary since he was sworn in the first time, with the help of DK Singh, our political editor, who will join me very soon, we have drawn up a list of 11 positives, successes, whatever you might want to call them, and 11 areas where he could have done a lot better. If you are a critic, you can call them failures. If you are a fan, you could say how much could a person do. Similarly, on the achievement side, if you are a critic, you will say, oh, on each one he could have done better, or this is something that the previous government had started. At least they will say that. However, what is our job? We are listing 11 on this side, 11 on the other side, drawing up a balance sheet, and then once DK joins me, then we will discuss the salient points emerging from that. So first of all, the 11 positives, achievements, or 11 areas where India has gone forward, or something has been redefined in a way that it will be tough for future governors of India. I don't want to say rulers, future governors of India, because this is a republic. We don't really have rulers. We have governors who are elected. It will be difficult for them also to reverse it. So I will quickly run through this list, and then this is a list of 11 because it's the 11th anniversary. Number 1, he developed a new anti-terror doctrine with surgical strikes across Pakistan-occupied Kashmir first, Uri, then on terror camp in mainland Pakistan, Balakot, and now strikes across the border in Bahawalpur, in Muridke, and when the Pakistanis retaliated, then a much larger retaliation, a disproportionate retaliation. And you've seen the pictures of all of those Pakistani air bases, which had not been bombed like this, not even a fraction of this in the previous full-fledged wars. Of course, technologies have also changed, and also the gap between India and Pakistan has changed. And this is without any formal declaration of war. So that's a big change now. And he has said already that in future, any act of terrorism will be seen as an act of war and will get retaliation. Number 2, Naxalism. Naxalism is on its way out. Maoism, or what is called as left-wing extremism. Dr. Manmohan Singh had called it the greatest internal security threat to India. This is now ending. This government had set up the deadline of March 2026. It looks like this will fold up even faster than that. Number 3, shifting the political and ideological compass of Indian politics decided to the right. Now, Ayodhya temple is one highlight, but generally you will find that the shift has been to the right, and a lot of the opposition parties also on the issues of nationalism, on many issues on the right, even religion, are now quote unquote correcting their position. So this is a push of national politics to the right, ideologically, economically not quite so, but ideologically, socially, yes, towards the right, and everybody is generally falling in line. Number 4, India becoming the 4th largest economy despite COVID setback. Of course, if you ask me, India could have done better, and we'll talk about that. And also, much better distribution of welfare to the poor. A lot of money has been spent in welfare, but see, Jam Trinity, Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, IBC, that is for bankruptcy, GST, UPI for payments from your phone, direct benefit transfer, DBT, Jan Dhan, etc., Mudra. Then balance between welfareism, populism and fiscal responsibility. While all this welfare has gone out, fiscal deficit has been kept in control. In fact, this year, again, promises to be a good one for fiscal deficit. No deficit is good, right? In the best of all worlds, but deficit below 5%. In fact, this year, the target is 4.41%. Looks like today the target will be met despite greatly increased defense spending within the same year. That is again something we will come to in the course of time. Then thrust on infrastructure. All these are positives. Expansion of highways, railways, airports, bringing women to the political and policy center stage. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. At least it's a campaign, right? Women's reservation, Ujjwala scheme for LPG, which empowers women, toilets, free food grain, particularly in the poorer communities, which is a lot of Indians, lot of fellow Indians. On Kashmir, Article 370 is one big movement. When this step had been taken, I had said that every government in India had been weakening Article 370. They'd been bleeding it, so it dies a natural death in the course of time. Modi government did it in one go. The example I'd used then was that his predecessors were using the method of halal. He's now finished the problem or finished the issue with Jhatka. What that does is, it says that there is no ambiguity about the status of Jammu and Kashmir. It is an inalienable part of India, so no debate remains now. Then the opposition will contest this. Critics will also say electoral bond. What about electoral bonds? But generally a decade without any major scam. Number 10, important foreign policy initiatives, strengthening relations with the US. We'll watch Trump now, although I think that's more bluster than reality. Trump's theater is different from Trump's reality. Then the management of India's relationship with Russia in this situation when there was so much pressure from the West. And then the outreach to the Middle East, which I think is very important because the improved relations with the Middle East, especially with Gulf Arabs, has been a big achievement. And finally, defense. It's a mixed bag. I'm right now listing the positive side of it, which is that defense has been modernized in many ways. There is a Make in India push. At least this 36 Rafales got bought. And a lot of the missiles and other stuff has been done, could have been done better. I will take it on the debit side as we go ahead. Now on the negative side. One, manufacturing, there is no change in terms of percentage to GDP. Manufacturing as a percentage of GDP despite the Make in India push. 2, labor codes. The government came up with very progressive labor codes in the year of the bad pandemic. Nothing's happened, that's got stalled. I'd say the farm reforms, I will add that. Farm reforms have also got stalled. No disinvestment. That's a disappointment because several times the Prime Minister himself has said that government should not be in business. In fact, when he was taking big reformist steps after the pandemic or during the pandemic months, he had said that government will get out of business in all areas except strategic areas. That hasn't happened. If anything, government is now doubling up, investing more money in the public sector. Next, collaborative or cooperative federalism is now a mere slogan. It doesn't work at all. In fact, the center and the non-BJP/NDA run states are constantly at loggerheads. You've seen this tamasha play out between the governors of those states and the chief ministers and the Supreme Court order. That is a real dog's breakfast. Number 6, smart cities mission is a mixed bag. We call many cities smart cities, but if you see them smartened up, please tell me it's not But if you see them having smartened up, please do tell me. I don't see much evidence of that. Number 7, Manipur. The Prime Minister said just the other day in Assam that he's working on this connectivity right across Myanmar, Thailand into East Asia. That's part of the Luki's policy, but none of that's going to happen unless you get Manipur back in order. So that Manipur question remains a big negative. Then I had mentioned this earlier, but agricultural reforms, good laws had been enacted, but because of the manner in which these were enacted, through the ordinance route, this led to suspicions and ultimately a capitulation by Modi government. The only real big capitulation, there was one before that, or land acquisition. This, however, was a much bigger capitulation because it's much more difficult to come back to it. And at the same time, the promise of doubling farmers' income is now forgotten. Then the important thing is foreign policy. We counted some positives on foreign policy. There are also some negatives. I'm not saying they are necessarily the government's doing, but see the relationships in the neighborhood. So in the neighborhood, Prime Minister Modi, 11 years ago when he was sworn in, he had invited leaders of all SAARC countries or all South Asian neighbors or subcontinental neighbors to participate. And that was a beginning. That hasn't quite worked out to perfection. Now you can't say that only India is to blame. Pakistan has gone the way it has gone. Bangladesh has gone the way it has chosen to go. Maldives had gone a certain way, had their economic crisis. There is some repair work going on there. Myanmar is in a complete mess right now of its own making. And Sri Lanka has gone to a very dark place economically and come back. At least that country has stability now. So in the neighborhood, the challenges, if anything, are more severe than they were in May 2014. Politicization of central investigation agencies. I need not say any more on that. Everybody knows what's been happening. 10. Insecurity among Muslims. They are 15% of India, almost 20 crore people. It's an unfortunate thing. It's also the marginalization of the Muslim community and a general social tension between communities, particularly for the largest minority in India. Number 11, political adventurism, which is sudden demonetization, return of license Raj in many ways. Couple of places government has stepped back, for example, when they were going to ban the import of laptops and phones. But yet, in many ways, every time you sign those PAN and Aadhaar photocopies and attest them for routine dealings with the bank, where your bank account is already linked to your PAN and Aadhaar, it tells you that some kind of Sarkari license Raj is coming back. And electoral bonds is also a negative because that is something the government tried. Finally, the Supreme Court struck it down. The opposition, the government's critics would say that this was a part of institutionalized money collection for the ruling party, which had the power. Having listed all that, I will now have DK Singh join in to make sense of some of these, at least the key elements of these. DK, new anti-terror doctrine. Are you surprised? Are you taken aback? Positive, negative? I will tell you my view. I do think that this is something that was needed. I do think also, looking back, although at that point in 2008, 26/11, I might have written and said that restraint was a better policy. But maybe if the line had been drawn earlier, we would not have seen some of what happened later, or maybe we would have been 2 steps up the escalation ladder. I don't know. I'm happy that we have hardened our position. DK, did you anticipate this?
I would not be surprised because the way from 2013 onwards we have seen Narendra Modi attacking the Congress government for being weak. So Dr. Manmohan Singh being weak Prime Minister was his big slogan. And we remember in 2013 on the Independence Day he started making his own speech in Gujarat. Where he talked about Pakistan and I'm speaking from here and how India is losing the battle against terrorism. He had taken to that level then only. And of course, we saw after coming to power, he did actually try to kind of have peace with Pakistan. We saw his sudden stopover to Lahore on his way back from Afghanistan. He talked about how SAARC heads of governments and states were called. He thought that probably he
He
could
also invited Xi
please
Jinping to India.
Xi Jinping to India.
Yeah.
But then I think after Pathankot attack, the entire thing changed.
Yes,
I mean, he
yes.
was even let the ISI team come to India to basically investigate.
Yeah, I think the compulsions of geopolitics don't just apply to India; they apply to China as well,
Yeah.
and that had an impact.
Yeah.
But you think it's popular for him to do this? Is it vote friendly?
Yeah, because his entire persona, I mean, the way you define it, strong and decisive is the slogan. Now, he has to be seen as strong and decisive. There's no way he could afford to be seen as going soft on terror.
Right.
So I'm not surprised.
So that's reasonable politics,
Yeah.
or that's good politics from his point of view.
That's very good politics.
Very good politics. Naxalism, again, something where our view was woolly headed. There was a liberal side which saw root causes there. So I was of the view that you cannot, just as you cannot apply the root causes theory to terrorism coming out of Kashmir or elsewhere, right? Whether it's Al Qaeda, ISIS, or terrorism coming from any other ideology or religion. Similarly, for armed Maoism also, root causes theory did not work. But in our politics, there were forces that believed that. And anytime you came close to getting success against Maoists, those forces interceded in the past.
Yes, even I think a couple of weeks back when I was interviewing the Chhattisgarh Chief Minister, he was talking about, how the support he needed from Telangana side will not come in. In fact,
Even now.
KCR, in fact, the former CM and the Revanth Reddy government, as the Chhattisgarh CM was saying, they have been critical. They say that you're killing innocent Adivasi in the name of Naxals. So they're already critical. And their apprehension is, okay, fine, from this side, you drive them away, you kill them. But then that side, if effective action is not taken, again, they'll come back.
Because the important thing is, if you, we had an episode on this just last week. If you see the names there of the top leadership, the bulk of them are Telugu speaking. The bulk of them have gone from what used to be Andhra Pradesh earlier, but many from the Telangana area, what would be Telangana today.
So what Amit Shah is doing today as the Home Minister, that his totally aggressive tactic. I mean, not that it was lacking in UPS or P. Chidambaram, for instance, when he was the Home Minister. He was very clear about what he wanted to do with them.
But he was thwarted.
He was thwarted.
But Digvijay Singh wrote that article in Economic Times, which was seen as NAC and 10 Janpath speaking.
Yeah. And then you were telling me the story, one of the former NSAs who was telling you about urban Naxals. And so it's not this government's...
In fact, the expression urban Naxal was coined by an NSA under the UPA government. That said, something right up your street, shifting the political and ideological compass of Indian politics decidedly to the right. These are your words also.
No, I'm actually borrowing it from one of your columns. When you talked about, win or loss, finally the RSS has won because everybody is talking around that Hindutva thing. So be it Rahul Gandhi or go anywhere in the south, they have to respond to Hindutva. It's not like they have their own ideology and pursuing that. Everything that they're framing their political language is in response to Hindutva. And that's the victory of the ideology, as you had said. Whatever be the political wins and losses electorally.
Yeah. And do you see any challenge coming up to it?
We do not really see any pushback as such. I mean, any well thought out pushback. You see Rahul Gandhi talking about this love and hatred message. But even this message is kind of it's a response to what the BJP or the RSS is doing.
And the fourth is really a governance thing. So we don't have much clutter there. That is all these redistributive schemes while maintaining fiscal prudence and fiscal discipline. Yeah. Because most other countries started printing money and distributing money in panic. That holding its nerve in the COVID period, I would count as one of the big achievements of the Modi government economically. Because once the fisc goes out of control, then we have seen among much richer countries, Western countries in the US, it takes a long time for you to put the genie back in the bottle, if you can at all put it back in the bottle. Thrust on infrastructure. Again, something on which there isn't that much clutter.
It's like continuation from where
some things have not progressed as well as they should have. The bullet train, for example.
bullet train, yeah, we don't know where it will come. Even smart cities,
Right.
it was part of that infrastructure push. But as we can see, I mean, you see a lot of achievements being counted. We did this, we did that. But where are those smart cities? I mean, you hardly see anywhere.
Maybe, DK, we should talk a bit more on the fiscal issue. From where does this idea of fiscal discipline comes in? Because in India, everybody has wanted to print money. That is the basic instinct of the Indian governing classes: print money and distribute.
So when you look at the Prime Minister Modi's economic philosophy, I mean, it's generally guided by what Dindayal Upadhyay talked about, or Dr. Panthengri talked about. You read Dr. Panthengri's book, his economic philosophy, this fiscal responsibility is something he stresses on all the time. So it's coming from there.
So this is a deeper ideological
Deeper
thought.
ideological
This is not something invented today.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not something that most people know. I didn't know that. Although I did write an article once that if you want to understand how Modi and Amit Shah are thinking, you should read the books that they've been brought up on. But this part I had missed. So that's an important point. And even the labor codes, which failed on the negative side, you think the fact that they sort of ran contrary to the old RSS thinking, that might have contributed to that capitulation or that hesitation ultimately?
See, even Swadeshi Jagran Manch, PMS, they are largely, broadly, they support the government.
Right.
They're not
Right.
getting into nitty-gritty, but largely they support the government. You may have some protests, they may say something publicly, but they are not opposing it from within.
Right.
But somehow the willpower is missing, in the sense, what the center is saying, that all states have not drafted the rules. But why do you wait for all the states to do it? You do it.
At least your state should draft the
Yeah,
rules and start moving.
You are just pushing the can.
And the same hesitation also hit the agriculture laws. Although there was opposition from Punjab and Haryana to an extent, but there was some hesitation as well. Was political will lacking in that case?
Initially, after that year-long protest, maybe there was a lot of pressure. But, from UP side, from Punjab, Haryana side, there was a lot of pressure. But once the electoral results started coming in, you saw it did not really have much impact. Even those farmers union leaders who contested in Punjab,
all lost their deposits.
all lost their deposits. After that, you could have come back to it. Even now, you can come back to it, because not many states are going to oppose you. Not many parties are going to oppose you. It's probably the right time for the Modi government to come back to the subject.
Yeah, all of you know I watch Pakistan very closely, and Pakistan has taken money from IMF. So some of it is being done under IMF pressure, but you can see that in Pakistan, many of the agricultural reforms that are coming in are a bit ahead, quite a bit ahead of the agricultural laws in India. For example, Pakistanis have abolished minimum support price. They've stopped state procurement of food grain. In India, on the other hand, the debate has gone backwards. It's a demand now for a legal guarantee for MSP, and that happens when you show a lack of political will on a big reformist move that you made. So that will be seen as a negative.
Agriculture tax up to 45%.
In Pakistan,
you don't really see any riots happening.
Absolutely, yes.
We are just not taking the initiative just to try to push it further.
Yeah, and abolishing free power, for example. No. So I'm not saying that everything that is being done is right. That country makes many mistakes. That country is very different. That country also has zamindari, which we abolished. So these are not exactly parallel situations. However, what needed to be reformed was drafted in those farm laws, and those had been voted by both houses of parliament and signed off by the president.
Let's just accept it. In this APMC Act, in Bihar abolished it way back in 2005, 2006.
Right.
You don't see any protests happening. There is hardly any procurement from Bihar.
Yeah.
You don't see farmers kind of,
yeah. I think what we saw in Punjab was also broken political ties between the BJP and the Sikh community. Punjab politics and the Sikh community and BJP's own lack of lack of a foothold in Punjab, particularly after the anchor of Akali Dal was lost.
So the other day I was sitting with a former, very senior IAPS officer who was in Delhi. He was telling me he had studied this entire thing. He was in charge of, he was looking after all this. So he studied the number of tractors that were bought during that period. So because their suspicion was that it was organized, it was not spontaneous. And as per his study, because he got the entire data from all these tractor agencies, 6 months before the agitation has started, there was a huge spurt in the purchase of those tractors. So basically, the police and center then came to the conclusion that it's all organized. It's not spontaneous. Yet the way they responded, somehow the dialogue was missing and they did not really reach out. So let me ask you on foreign affairs. I'm asking you about the foreign affairs. How do you judge the overall foreign policy? Because I've seen in comment section whenever you talk about the Congress talking about IMF, no country came to support you, and this is what the Congress has been trying to drive home, that internationally we are isolated. Nobody condemned Pakistan. How do you assess?
Look,
that?
there is a basic difference between 26/11 and even Pulwama, because even in Pulwama, Jaish-e-Mohammed had made claims, owning up then they tried to go back, but they had made claims. In this case, TRF is not an organization which people were familiar with internationally. So there was a feeling generally that India was too hasty in naming Pakistan and putting pressure on its friends to join in to support. So you see, people made nuanced statements. Everybody said we sympathize with India. Everybody said we condemn terrorism. Americans said we will help India in finding these terrorists, right? And if you see the Americans, different cabinet officials had used different words. So Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, you could see that they were nuancing. So they were even saying the closest they came to condemning Pakistan was to say that Pakistan should cooperate with India in finding these terrorists and act against those who may be acting from its soil. However, Pakistanis have done a very good job of camouflaging this operation because they had to do it for FATF. They had to get out of FATF. If they were not out of the grey list, they would not have got their IMF bailout. That's why Lashkar-e-Taiba, quote unquote, ceased to exist. That's what their defense minister told Sky News, right? Jaish-e-Mohammed ceased to exist. But these are like the organizations. These organizations can have sort of amoebic regeneration. They can break away, they can become something else. And Pakistan has done a good job of that. And not enough time has passed since then. So I think this took a lot of India's friends by surprise. And they did not think that they had sufficient evidence immediately to condemn Pakistan, because nobody wanted to do so, because Pakistanis are the usual suspects, right? But however, to say that nobody is with you, look, India changed the constitutional status of Kashmir. Which country told you to reverse it? So barring the Chinese who might have made some noise, OIC, who cares for the OIC, right? No other country did, right? No other country did. A special session of Security Council wasn't called. You were not told to go back to the old resolution. So these are big achievements. So I think sometimes we also expect too much from our allies. And why should India always need foreign support? As long as foreign countries are not stopping you, right? They are not stopping you. They are not critical of you. It's all right.
Javed Ashraf was telling in one of his interviews,
The former top foreign service officer. He's been ambassador to many key countries.
Nowadays, every country thinks in its own interests.
Exactly.
So, how in the long term, you don't go by how what they have said now. Foreign policy is not judged by what is happening just now.
Right.
So you wait in the long term how they react and how they behave.
Yeah, and
how they treat you.
And also in our country, we know that foreign policy has now become integral to our domestic politics.
Yeah.
So why do we expect this not to happen in other countries as well?
Yeah.
For Donald Trump, it's very much part of his internal politics, right? For Europe, it's very much a part of their internal politics, because they would have expectations from you, from India on Ukraine, because they are fighting a war with the Russians, right? So it's a very complex world where everybody is on their own.
This is what Javed Ashraf was hinting at. Foreign policy today is not about, you're having backroom negotiations, experts are discussing. It's even the social, it's dictated even by the social media today. I mean, it has an influence.
Well, I mean, if you look at Trump, if you look at Trump, just read his tweet. I mean, the same tweet, he's called Putin unhinged. And he's even said that every time Zelensky opens his mouth, there is trouble. So we don't know what he's saying, and you can then start reading between the lines. So it's a complex world. Every country acts in its own interest. And you know what? Everybody has problems of their own. And there's also a sense in this world, DK, that there should not be one more war. We have enough to handle. There is the Gaza stuff going on. Iran has to be handled, because if Gaza stuff goes on, Iran becomes stronger. Houthis have stopped traffic or cargo in the Red Sea. Ukraine, Russia is going on, which is strengthening China. It is strengthening China because the more Russia becomes dependent on China, the stronger China becomes. So the rest of the world also has to look at all of that. Within that, I would say, we get heartbroken for no reason, because we just think that everybody should support us. I think we can stand on our feet right now, unless another big power openly comes up against you. Suppose the Chinese openly came up against you, or started making movements on the line of actual control. I think I'll be okay with what's happened so far. What I'm not okay with is some of the issues in the neighborhood. I think some of the issues in the neighborhood, Nepal, for example, at some point, Bangladesh, these could have been handled better, because we cannot have two Pakistans on our flanks. We can't have a Punjabi-speaking Pakistan. I don't call it an Urdu-speaking Pakistan, and a Bengali-speaking Pakistan. That is not something that strategically India should have, and that's where our diplomacy has to do better than it has done. On defense, again, DK, since you asked me, defense government has done a lot. CDS has been appointed. Many reforms have taken place. Agniveer, I think, is a reform. Although the benefits will not come now. Pension benefits will come in the course of time. But by way of reducing the average age of Indian armed forces, this has already begun to work. It's a good reform. There will be changes going ahead, but it's a good reform. What is disappointing is how much the government has spent on defense. Under Modi government, India has not increased its defense spending at all. If anything, at this point, now I know more money will be spent in this financial year. What was budgeted as a percentage of GDP was lower than what it was in Nehru's era leading up to the 1962 war. Now, I know people will say GDP is much bigger, but the needs are much bigger. A soldier's salary is much bigger. Pension is much bigger. A tank costs that much more. So everything's gone up. Even in constant dollars, our defense spending hasn't gone up. And that will change now. But why change it after you've had a rude reminder that you've been underspending? That is a point of disappointment.
Do you think the economy remains the biggest worry? See, look at the last two budgets. Last budget, we just heard about internship. You just wanted to basically address that constituency where unemployment is a big problem. So entire budget was devoted to that. This budget again, fine, middle class gets relief. But where is that big picture? Now, you were writing about how manufacturing to GDP ratio, this has remained the same in the last 10 years, despite Make in India slogan that we always hear about. It's the same as it was during the Manmohan Singh government. Basically, manufacturing's share to the GDP, it's same, a little over 17%.
Except in the past, it was not made into such a big political issue that we will up manufacturing. Let us see what happens now. There are some other negatives also. For example, declining FDI, declining net FDI. Net FDI means FDI keeps coming in, but people who brought in investment in the past also cash out and take their money out. So if you net it off, then net FDI has been the lowest in a very long time. In fact, in the last year, it's been negligible. And we had featured this in a full episode of Cut the Clutter, of which we will share a link with you. 'DK, insecurity of minorities and social polarization.
Well, it has been there despite the Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas being the Prime Minister's slogan. And there's something about the mindset of some of the policymakers, I mean, which sends out some bad signals. So, from the party side, the government side, the thrust, and of course, the Prime Minister is right. I mean, all these welfare schemes, I mean, there has not been any discrimination.
That's true, yes. Everybody's got them, irrespective of religion, caste,
Yeah, but
language.
what happens, the larger message you send, now you have 30 cabinet ministers, don't have a single Muslim minister there. You have 30 cabinet and 5 ministers with independent charge. You don't find a Muslim face.
And the fact and the argument that, oh, but the Muslims don't vote for us, that doesn't count.
So we've seen how there is no discrimination against Muslims or minorities when it comes to, giving them benefits of all the welfare schemes. That everybody gets it. I mean, there is no complaint from anywhere.
Equally, any religion, any language, any ethnic group, this is all fair.
Yeah, Prime Minister has been very unequivocal about how he pursues inclusive politics. Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas is his slogan. What happens is during election times when you want to rally your
Your base.
your base around, you start making speeches which become like the talking point for the days to come. You have incidents where law enforcement agencies have been seen to be going after the minority community. That raises concern. When you have ministers talking like this, when you have MLAs and MPs actually targeting them. So the bigger things that you are trying to do for Muslims, as I said, trying to basically make them economically better and socially secure. But when you have all these messages coming from across the country through different corners from your party leaders, some loudmouths can spoil the entire messaging that you have been trying to give.
And also empowerment is an issue. Political empowerment is always
Political
an issue.
empowerment, because if you do not have a single Muslim minister in your entire cabinet.
But you know what? I will add to this. On minorities, then right moves will also be made. There'll be troublesome moves and right moves like Amit Shah calling Owaisi in this case. Where it's going to be much more challenging to see any positive change will be on federalism. Because this tension between the center and non-NDA BJP states will only get worse going ahead, you think?
Since he took over the reins in Delhi, Modi has been talking about, first he came up with cooperative federalism, then he started talking about collaborative federalism. But we have seen this sliding consistently. Now, there has to be reasons under this PMC scheme, because some of the opposition ruled states are not implementing your national education policy, they have reservations, you have started denying them funds. Now, Kerala is complaining, West Bengal is complaining, Tamil Nadu is complaining. So you cannot be punishing states for not implementing policies of your choice. They may have differences.
So that's our balance sheet for now. Balance sheet for now with auditors' comments on the side, right? Auditors' observations. In this case, editors' observations. Although the part of the country where I grew up as a journalist, everybody said you are an auditor, right? They also thought auditor is a higher form of life than editor. With this editorial notes, we've given you a balance sheet, or you can say with this editorial audit, we've given you this balance sheet. However, Mr. Modi has 4 more years to go. And DK, do you agree or not agree that the odds that he's going to contest for a 4th term are almost 100 to 0, that he will contest?
As it is, we don't know how things will change. But now we see, suddenly we hear Modi talking about himself. Modi is back in his speeches. Modi calling Modi. He's talking about Modi ka chest. He's talking about Modi's, hot vermilion flowing through his veins.
Right.
Now Modi's cool mind. So Modi is back in his speech. That shows you how confident he is now. And I just hope that this confidence now actually gives him that political leeway through which to get back into all this reformist mode.
Yeah.
And that's only when you have to go for a legacy now for your 4th term.
Yeah, because if he's going for his 4th term, I would add that 6% annual growth will be underwhelming. 6% annual growth for about 4.5% fiscal deficit is underwhelming. India deserves to grow much faster, 7.5%, then going to 8%. Won't happen overnight, but India has set its cruise control at too moderate a pace, and we are both hoping that will change as Modi builds up to his fourth term.
Yeah, for the fourth term, he needs some solid
The
thing.
contest for his fourth term.
Because we saw a lot of initiative in his first term. Lots of reformist initiatives in all sectors. In the second term, you started seeing these things kind of getting reduced to giving, populist schemes.
Free food grain came at that time.
Free food grains. Even in the states, you started giving freebies to women. So the entire focus shifted, and all those reformist instinct kind of, somehow got suppressed. That momentum was lost. Now in the third term, he has another opportunity. Now we see the same Modi back in his old elements.
Yes.
I mean, I guess he would be working for his legacy now, and that will become his talking point for the fourth term.
All we can say on the 11th anniversary of Modi having been first sworn in as Prime Minister is that we are heading for really exciting times. As for what we wish, we both read out our wish lists to you.